At the beginning of the week, Bitcoin saw a massive pump. I'm actually still bearish, just like I was at the beginning of the week, and I'm expecting lower prices for both Bitcoin, but also for Ethereum this week. And in today's video, I'll explain to you guys why, but I'll also give you guys my two brand new trading ideas on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's a few reasons why I'm bearish on Bitcoin and why I am expecting Bitcoin to trade towards lower prices this week. Now, the first reason why I'm bearish is due to the timing of this entire move towards the upside right over here. Because what we can see is that Bitcoin over here started this impulse to the upside. Now, what we can see is that the start of this impulse over here, look at the timing of that start of the impulse. It started on Saturday. Now, we know that we can't trust weekend moves. And during this move on the weekend, Bitcoin was leaving behind these lows untapped, which is now been called weekend liquidity. And to me, we always trade towards those weekend liquidity pools. I wouldn't say always, but very, very often. Now, the second reason is the timing of this last impulse towards the upside. Because what we can see over here is that this last impulse towards the upside, it started over here with these big candles. Now, what we can see is that these candles were formed during the London session on Monday. Now, what's wrong with that is that on Monday it was a bank holiday for the EU, meaning that this move that took place during London basically took place during a bank holiday. Now we know that there's two moves that we can never ever trust. It's moves that happen over the weekend and it's moves that happen during a bank holiday. So this entire move over here is also a move that I cannot trust. In confluence with this also being a weekend low, this to me currently is still my main draw on liquidity, which is why I've been building a short up on this push towards the upside. Now, I told you guys this already on Tuesday's video and also on Monday on my Twitter page. Whoops, you don't want your portfolio to drop like that, so make sure to like and subscribe and let's keep things steady. What we can also see at the exact same time is that Bitcoin got a very aggressive push to the upside, honestly higher than I expected, and it took out this buy-side liquidity over here. While taking out this massive buy-side liquidity above that high, it was stepping into this supply area over here. Now, so far it looks like Bitcoin has seen a strong rejection from that supply area. Now, what I really like for the bears here is that we see one rejection, a second rejection, and a third rejection. And every single time before price rejected, it saw an aggressive impulse to the upside. Now, why do I like the fact that this impulse to the upside was very aggressive and that this impulse to the upside was very aggressive and also this impulse to the upside was very aggressive? Due to the fact that because price was moving very aggressively towards the upside, mitigating this buy-side liquidity pool above that high and mitigating this supply, a lot of people were induced into opening up breakout long positions over here on Bitcoin. Breakout long positions over here on Bitcoin and also on that third push towards the upside. Now, every single time we can see that those long positions were being absorbed within that supply and then Bitcoin rejected. Now, usually when you see three highs like this and Bitcoin rejects, then it starts seeking sell-side liquidity. There's sell-side liquidity resting beneath this low, which will be an intermediate take profit target for my short, and there's also sell-side liquidity resting beneath this low, which is another intermediate short take profit target for me as well. Now, to those that aren't positioned yet, there's still a way to position yourself short today. Now, what we need for that is for the New York session to start, meaning that I'm waiting for hour 12 UTC time over here to start at this white line, and I need the end of hour 14, aka the start of hour 15. Whenever this period starts, this is the time to observe the price action for Bitcoin. I never look at London price action, I always look at the price action within this timing period between hour 12 and 14. What I'm waiting for is for Bitcoin to get a push into that timing period and then provide me with bearish confirmations on the price of Bitcoin, anything in this sense. If I get something like this, I will add another market short on Bitcoin with my stop above that New York session high, targeting that weekend liquidity pool to the downside right over here. Now, what is extremely important with these kind of confirmations is that you both want a break of structure to the downside over here, but also, and this is more important, price needs to make a fresh session low once hour 15 starts. If hour 15 starts and we do not get a fresh session low yet, you can't execute this trade. Making a fresh second pivot and a fresh second low after hour 15 started, that's the trigger, that's the confirmation that you need to enter this short position on Bitcoin. Now, why is my target the weekend low and aka a new weekly low for Bitcoin? Because when we look at the weekly statistics for Bitcoin, and I gathered data over the last 4 years, as you guys can see, what we can see in that case is that it's very unlikely that the weekly high and weekly low are in already for Bitcoin. There's an extremely high probability that either the weekly high or the weekly low are going to get taken out, and also the confidence targets for a bearish week are much lower compared to the current price. First of all, we can see that the current time statistics on Bitcoin right over here are showcasing a 97.1% probability that there's going to be a new second pivot this week, meaning either the weekly high or the weekly low is going to get taken out. Now, since I'm bearish, I'm targeting a 97.1% probability to take out that weekly low on Bitcoin. Distance statistics are also showcasing a 94.3% probability to see a bigger move compared to the current move we have seen so far this week, meaning, once again, either a 94.3% probability to take out the high of the week or the low of the week. Now, considering the fact that the weekly low has seen a warning over here, because 90.5% of weeks have seen a bigger wick compared to the current wick to the downside on the weekly candle for Bitcoin, meaning that the weekly low is a low probability low to hold as well. So where a lot of people are targeting new weekly highs on Bitcoin, I'm actually targeting new weekly lows on Bitcoin. And both the timing of price and the distance of price are showcasing an extremely high probability that we will form new second pivots this week before the weekly candle closes. Now, and Brighter Data has also just added confidence targets, short targets if P1 turns out to be the high for the week. 90% of weeks would reach $102.836 thousand on Bitcoin. 80% of weeks would reach $102.039 thousand on Bitcoin. Now, when we compare this to the current chart, $1. Honestly, guys, what's $1 to you? These days, you basically can't buy anything anymore with $1, but right now, you can use the dollar to get 14 days of access to what I think is the best and most authentic trading community in the space, Tribe Capital. All that you guys need to do is follow the first link in the description down below, fill out your credit card information, you can cancel anytime you want, and you'll get 14 days of access to the best trading community in the space, Tribe Capital. I'll catch you guys there. We can see that the weekly low, which is likely to get taken out, is right over here, which is my first massive take profit target for my short. And then I've also added these two confidence targets to the downside over here right as well. Number one, as you guys can see, 90% probability to reach it if this P1, this weekly high turns out to be the P1 for the week, and also an 80% probability to reach the second confidence target to the downside right over here as well. Now, for Ethereum, my plan is extremely plain and simple. What we can see is that Ethereum is still range bound. This is the range that I've been talking about for a while now. We can see the range high right there, and we can see the range low right over here for Ethereum. We know that we always like to trade deviations over breakouts, and exactly that's what we are looking at potentially right over here. Potential deviation above the range high. If that is being confirmed, then we'll see a move towards range low, as you guys know. Now, how are we going to execute potential shorts? What's the thing that we need to wait for? We need to wait for a high probability break of structure. And in my opinion, that high probability break of structure will take place once we open and close candles beneath the low right over here. Because in my opinion, this is a very significant low, since this is the low that started this impulse that brought us to this higher high over here. Also, this high that brought us to that low carries a lot of significance as well. What do I mean by that? I mean that this high carries a lot of significance because it swept the previous month high over here, where we had a lot of liquidity resting. And if a high or low sweeps into a liquidity pool, it carries a lot of significance. So a significant high over here brings us to a significant low that then brings us to a higher high again. So if price can now manage to get an impulse down, open and close candles on a 1 hourly time frame beneath this low, then I think the deviation is confirmed. And if that happens, then I will be shorting the pullback in towards that range high area over here with my stop loss above that high right there, targeting that range low liquidity pool over here for an RR of exactly 2. Another Bitcoin and Ethereum update wrapped up for you guys. If you guys like this kind of updates, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and then I'll catch you guys on the next one. Ciao, ciao.